Shark fishing in Japan is a long-standing activity, closely linked to the island nation's maritime history and coastal culinary traditions. Since the Edo period, people in coastal areas such as Chiba, Wakayama, Kochi and Hokkaido have been accustomed to pursuing large fish offshore, not only for food but also for cultural rituals. Long-term storage and domestic trade. Sharks appear in Japanese culture not as ocean monsters, but often as a utilitarian marine resource, like tuna, mackerel and swordfish, that transcends the fear that many other cultures hold of them. But the modern story of this activity has become much more complex. As Japan has entered a globalized era, with ecological, conservation and ethical perspectives dominating international debates about shark fishing. In many traditional fishing villages, shark fishermen never considered their work to be extreme or recreational. They called their work shigoto, proper work, and treated the sharks as valuable creatures. With no part of them going to waste. In the past, the Japanese used shark skin to polish wood or as a special material for crafts. Teeth and jaws were used to make small tools or sold as souvenirs. Cartilage was cooked as a tonic or as an ingredient in traditional stews. Shark meat, when handled properly, became an ingredient in many regional dishes, such as shark sashimi, stews in Aomori, or miso dishes in Tohoku. However, to get these signature dishes, the catching and processing process must be very meticulous because sharks have different biological characteristics compared to many other fish species. Their muscles easily accumulate ammonia. Requiring quick and proper processing to avoid a strong smell. Japanese fishermen use many methods to catch sharks. Besides the traditional long-line hand fishing method, they also have the long-line technique, a long-distance fishing method with hundreds of deep-set hooks, which is also used to catch tuna and swordfish. When a shark is hooked, the fisherman must carefully pull it up, because even though it is trapped, it is still a powerful creature and can capsize a small boat if not careful. In old fishing villages, catching a large fish is considered a sign of good luck and proof of the skill, patience and bravery of the seafarer. But in modern times, this activity is operated in a more systematic way, from regulations on size, quantity to the permitted fishing area, to avoid overfishing. When the boat returns to shore, the first step is not to cut the meat but to inspect it. In Japan, any seafood product related to domestic consumption must comply with very strict hygiene standards. This comes from a long-standing culinary culture, because the Japanese always respect the purity of the ingredients. Therefore, whether shark or any other species, the process is always standardized in fish markets or recognized processing facilities. From the time of Tsukiji market to the current Toyosu market, batches of shark are brought in for grading in the early morning. Experts use their eyes, hands, and many years of experience to evaluate the quality of the meat. They look at the color, elasticity, natural smell of the meat and the condition of the skin to determine the value. In this culture, each product that goes to market carries the honor of the fisherman and the processor. The process of cutting shark meat in Japan is highly technical, absolutely not arbitrary. After cleaning the fish, it is placed on a large wooden table. The knives used are usually long, sharp blades such as yanagiba or deba. Depending on the stage, the butcher must operate firmly but gently, avoiding damaging the muscle structure. Sharks do not have hard bones like many other fish species, but instead have a cartilage frame, making the cutting method completely different. The worker must know exactly where to separate the skin. Take the white or red meat depending on the species and the purpose of use. Some species have soft meat, used to cook soup, while others have firmer meat fibers, used as sashimi or dried to make surimi, the raw material for famous Japanese fish cakes. This whole process requires high concentration, because an incorrect knife cut can reduce the value of the entire piece of meat. In fact, many Japanese fishermen also understand the need for conservation. They know that if sharks disappear, the marine food chain will fluctuate greatly, directly affecting their own industry. Therefore, in many areas, fishermen cooperate with scientists to monitor shark populations, tag them for research and apply appropriate quotas. Some regions even voluntarily ban the fishing of certain rare shark species. This activity both protects the marine ecosystem and maintains the tradition that they consider part of their identity. Many Japanese fishing associations also hold propaganda sessions for the younger generation, explaining that tradition does not mean unlimited exploitation, but knowing how to adjust to harmonize with the environment. The process of preserving shark meat in Japan has special characteristics, because shark meat is easily affected by odor if left at room temperature for a long time. Processing facilities must refrigerate or freeze it immediately after cutting it. Modern factories use quick freezing technology to preserve the meat's texture, preventing it from becoming mushy when thawed later. In addition, traditional methods such as sea breeze drying are also used during the winter days in northern Japan. This is an old method but gives the fish meat a special flavor. Some food artisans in Tohoku proudly say that no modern technology can replace the taste of wind and snow. Shark fishing and shark butchering in Japan, when viewed through a balanced lens, is not a story of destruction or limitless exploitation, but part of a long and complex history between humans and the sea. It reflects how the Japanese cherish resources, preserve traditional skills, and try to adapt to the modern world. Many veteran fish carvers still pass on their craft to the younger generation, not to maintain production, but to preserve knowledge of knives, of weather, of ocean currents, of how to process each type of fish. a living heritage they believe will disappear if not preserved. In a context of strong industrialization, such artisanal knowledge is all the more valuable. Shark butchering, in the context of Japanese craftsmanship, can be seen as an art. The knife must be sharpened to the correct angle. The handle must be firm but soft, and each cut must be calculated. Experienced workers emphasize that no part of the fish is wasted. Even seemingly worthless parts such as skin, organs, or cartilage are processed into food ingredients or other uses. This approach of respecting resources and avoiding waste is intrinsic to Japanese culture. Reflecting the philosophy of maritime, regretting waste, it is one of the distinctions that makes shark butchering in Japan so iconic. The future of shark fishing in Japan will undoubtedly continue to change. International pressure, climate change, and resource depletion pose challenges. But history shows that the Japanese have a strong ability to adapt. They can reduce production, change occupations in some areas, or fish in more sustainable models. Some seafood researchers believe that Japan will be the pioneer in building a model of controlled, transparent and environmentally friendly shark fishing. This is both to protect tradition and to meet the needs of the times. The night sea always begins with a vast darkness, where the boundary between water and sky is vague as if it never existed. Mr. Bay's steel ship, more than 40 meters long, splits the waves, leaving behind white foam trails, like a giant whale rushing into the ocean that is opening up secret depths. On deck, the yellow halogen lights burn brightly like a miniature sun, clearly illuminating the dark faces of the men who are used to the salty taste of the sea breeze. They prepare for a long night of fishing, with the goal of bringing back hundreds of tons of fish. A number that sounds absurd, but for experienced fishermen, it is a dream that is often reached. The ship shakes with each beat when the net is dropped, spinning in the dark water. The nets, several thousand square meters wide, plunge down like invisible arms, embracing a part of the sea. The waves hitting the side of the ship sound like the sigh of the ocean. There were calm nights. The sea was as gentle as a mat. But there were also nights when the wind blew fiercely, each wave a meter high hitting the deck, causing the whole ship to tilt. But no one trembled. They had lived with the sea since the days when they could not write. They understood that the rough sea or the gentle sea were both friends. And great rewards were always reserved for those who did not falter. The fish finder sounded regular signals, a sound like the sound of metal colliding, signaling that schools of fish were moving a few dozen meters above the water surface. Mr. Bay, who had 40 years of experience at sea, kept his eyes on the continuously flashing sonar screen. Small, dense spots of light appeared like stars reflecting on the sea surface. There are a lot of them, "Get ready," he shouted loudly. The workers immediately ran to their positions, each with a task, coordinating rhythmically as if they had practiced 100 times. No one was extra, no one was lacking. Every movement had a reason. The ship slowed down. The rumbling sound of the engine gradually faded away. The net began to shrink, forming a giant circle under the sea. The steel winch system stretched out, emitting a sharp screeching sound, like the sound of a guitar string being stretched to its limit. Sweat began to run down the spine even though the sea breeze was still blowing fiercely. The feeling of waiting for the school of fish to be trapped in the net always brought with it a sense of suspense, like the moment of sitting in the dark waiting for the first fireworks. Because if the school of fish separated from the flow, deviated a little, the whole circle of net would be in vain, but Mr. Bay's intuition was never wrong. Then the magical moment came. The water surface in the middle of the net began to move strongly. At first, it was just small circles like boiling water, but immediately after that, there were strong splashing sounds that echoed throughout the night at sea. Under the light, millions of silver fish scales shone, dense like a moving mirror. Tuna, mackerel, herring, even large fish as big as half a meter all collided with each other, splashing and splashing seawater into the air. Looking at that scene, everyone knew that tonight would be a bountiful night. Every man on the ship seemed to be re-energized, forgetting all fatigue, only excitement rising like a tidal wave. The giant steel nets were lowered. Each time a few hundred kilograms of fish were pulled up onto the deck. The sound of fish hitting the nets sounded like hail falling on a corrugated iron roof. Workers on both sides quickly separated the fish by type: fish for export, fish for ice boxes, fish for the canning factory. The seawater mixed with the smell of fresh fish splashed into their faces. Cold but strangely pleasant, the insulated boxes were filled one after another, each weighing several hundred kilograms. The sound of the air conditioner on the deck ran continuously to keep the fish at -18 degrees, ensuring that when they reached shore they would still be as fresh as if they had just been fished out of the sea. Just like that, the nets were pulled up in patches like silver carpets. The group of young men with broad shoulders rotated continuously, scooping fish, arranging boxes, pulling ice, tying ropes. Each person had a movement, fast but precise. There was no grumbling, no one complained. The only thing they cared about was that the sea was giving them a golden opportunity. There were times when the fish were so full that the water in the net pushed back up to the surface, creating a column of water nearly a meter high. Everything was like a moving river of fish. As dawn approached, the sea turned a deep blue with streaks of pale yellow. The sunrise at sea is a gift that not everyone has the opportunity to witness every day. And for fishermen, each sunrise is a reminder that they have lived a whole night with the sea, with the wind and with a livelihood that is never easy. But tonight, all the hard work was worth it. Because the ship had passed the 150-ton mark of fish, a number that made the whole team almost want to shout like children. When the net was completely pulled up, fish were still scattered all over the deck, sparkling in the early morning sun like silver bars. The crew members took the opportunity to eat a hot bowl of noodles that the cook hastily cooked in the smallest kitchen in the world. Then returned to classify the fish, arrange the freezer, and record the books. The work after catching the fish lasted for hours, because the number of fish was so large, but everyone did it with a proud heart. The ship was getting heavier because the cold compartment was full. The smell of fresh fish, sea salt, and engine oil mixed together to create a unique scent of the sea that anyone who had experienced it once would never forget. Everyone's face was exhausted, but their eyes were bright. There were people who had been to sea all their lives but had never seen such a large school of fish. Some whispered that it seemed like the sea loved them today. At noon, when the ship headed toward the mainland nearly 100 nautical miles from shore, no one could sleep despite staying up all night. They sat leaning against iceboxes full of fish, telling each other stories of storms that almost capsized the ship. Stories of old friends who did not return after a fateful trip. Stories of torn nets that had to be mended all night. Stories of small gifts brought from the sea for children. Those stories were like wisps of smoke rising from a salty life. Full of hardship but also full of pride. Afternoon, the mainland appeared like a pale strip of color in the distance. The sailors began to prepare to dock. The ship's whistle sounded long and loud, like a declaration of victory after a long night of fighting. At the fishing port, traders were already waiting, refrigerated trucks lined up. They knew that Mr. Bay's ship had a big win today. The news of a ship carrying over 100 tons of fish had just surfaced and spread throughout the port like a strong wind. In the evening, after the work was done, they sat together on the dock, eating a simple but surprisingly delicious meal. Perhaps because after a successful fishing trip, everything became meaningful. Mr. Bay poured white wine for everyone, a glass of wine that was spicy but warmed the heart. He said that this year the sea loved people, and hoped that the next trips would be the same. The men nodded, their eyes sparkling under the yellow light. But deep down, everyone understood that the sea was never the same after 2 trips. Sometimes it was peaceful, sometimes it was fierce, sometimes it was a big win like today, and sometimes it was empty-handed. But they still went, because that was their job, their fate, their life, and because there are moments like last night, the moment of seeing the silver fish swarming up like waves. The moment of knowing that all the hard work is rewarded, they love their job more than ever. The night sea pulls them back. Season after season, trip after trip, each time they pull the net is a challenge. A touch of luck and perseverance. Hundreds of tons of fish are not just a number, but also the story of a lifetime, of never-ending faith, of human strength in the face of vast nature, and of the bond between people and the deep sea. The wind blew the cold air across the deck, but under their feet, the floor was hot from the non-stop operation. Those men were used to staying up 2 to 3 nights in a row. They did not count by hours. They counted by trips. And this trip, if it went well, could bring in enough income to support the whole family for several months. Some were saving money for their children to go to university. Some wanted to repair the roof damaged by the storm. Each ton of fish pulled up was not only an asset, but also a hope. Mornings at Japanese fishing ports always begin with rhythmic movements like a giant machine that has been running for hundreds of years without missing a beat. Before the sun rises, boats from all over the sea silently glide into the dock, their hulls still soaked with seawater and the salty smell rising like the breath of the ocean. Large and small fishing boats jostle each other to dock, their bright white headlights shining down on the shimmering water surface, clearly illuminating the full boxes of fish that have just been caught during the night. The shadow of the fishermen are cast long on the damp wooden floor. They tie ropes, secure the boats, and immediately begin the work of unloading, regardless of their bodies still exhausted after many hours at sea. Specialized forklifts and carts are waiting on the shore, rushing in as soon as the boats drop anchor. White styrofoam boxes, a characteristic of Japanese fishing ports, are passed around continuously. Inside were mackerel, tuna, saba fish, squid, octopus, crab, shrimp, all so fresh that the fish bodies still shone silver like mirrors. Cold air from the crushed ice mixed with the smell of fresh fish created a very unique scent of the fishing port. Both strong and clean, making people clearly feel the richness of the Sea of Japan. Just a few minutes after the fish were taken off the ship, the operation chain inside the port immediately started. The sorters stood in long lines, their hands as fast as lightning, selecting fish according to size, weight, fat, eye clarity and muscle firmness. They didn't need to say much. Everything happened according to habits passed down from generation to generation. Some people used specialized equipment to measure the quality of fish, especially tuna, a very valuable type. They lightly cut a slice of the tail to observe the color of the meat. The fat marbling and the brightness of the muscle. Just a few seconds of looking with their eyes, they knew how much the fish was worth. The sounds of machinery, the sound of carts running, and people calling each other in short Japanese voices rang out continuously, creating a mixed but very rhythmic sound. No one jostled, no one stood still, everyone knew their place in that cycle. Japanese fishing ports were not just places of trade but a miniature society. where discipline, order and meticulousness were put first. When the sky was bright, the auctions began. Merchants from restaurants, central markets, large supermarkets had been waiting for a long time. They wore white boots, protective helmets, and held note boards. No one spoke loudly but just walked to each tray of fish to observe carefully. The auctioneer held the microphone, his voice quick and decisive. Prices were read continuously, buyers' hands raised in a split second. Decisions only took a few seconds. Each tray of fish could cost tens of thousands of yen, even millions of yen if it was high-quality ocean tuna. The entire auction process is like a commercial dance, fast, precise, without a second to spare. The winning bidder will immediately have a staff member stick a code on the fish box, recording the origin, type of fish, time of catching and storage temperature. Japan is famous for its extremely strict traceability, so each product must come with clear information to ensure quality. When the auction ends, a series of refrigerated trucks line up to enter the shipping area. People put the fish in deep freeze compartments, close the doors, and immediately send them to Tokyo, Osaka, Hokkaido or directly to the airport for export. The fish at the port only stay there for a few hours, then immediately spread throughout Japan, as fresh as if they had just been caught despite traveling hundreds of kilometers. The entire cold transport system is strictly controlled down to the degrees Celsius. But Japanese fishing ports are not just about buying and selling. They are also places where a long-standing maritime cultural tradition is preserved. Under the eaves, the workers stood sharpening their knives on the rocks, preparing to cut the fish. The Japanese blades were so thin and sharp that they could cut through the thick layer of fish skin with just a light touch. They cut each slice into thin, shiny, clean slices without a drop of blood. Every movement was as beautiful as art. Large tunas required 2 to 3 people to carry, and the cutting was done carefully like a solemn ritual, attracting many tourists to watch. In another corner, the elderly sat mending nets, repairing buoys, and checking tools before the ship set sail.